Hello and welcome to Calls. This is the 2023 Houston Open Initial Research Show. Quite a long intro, so bear with me. First off, hope your week went a whole lot better than mine. Mine was an utter disaster. Had a few good recommendations, but none of the lineups that I put together performed well. None of the outright wagers I made, top 10s, top 20s, hit. Overall, it was a pretty poor showing on my end, but hopefully you did well. If you did, reach out to me in chat this evening or on social media. I would love to be able to let my viewers know. The one winner I have heard from is a friend of mine named Dave, who hit Joel Damon on a top 10 wager after watching last week's shows. So congrats, Dave, on that hit. But again, if you are a winner, let me know. I would love to be able to shout you out at the beginning of the week. A little bit of a different schedule this week. This is the second to last week of the fall portion of the season. So this week will be the normal shows in terms of YouTube. Sunday, Initial Research, Monday, Data Dive, and Wednesday, DFS Tactics. And I will be streaming tomorrow morning on Twitch, doing the winner research, the winner pattern finding, if you will, critiquing my Mayakoba mixed condition model. So that will still happen 10:30 a.m. tomorrow, but no stream Tuesday. I myself am going to hit the golf ball and go chase it wherever it goes, because it's usually not where I intend it to go. So I'm going to be playing a little bit of golf on Tuesday morning. So no stream Tuesday, and I will remind you of that tomorrow evening. Let's see, anything else? I also mentioned how it was the second to last week for the fall portion. You have this week, which is the Houston Open, next week, which is the RSM Classic, and then the PGA Tour will be off for Thanksgiving, Christmas, holidays, all of that. So this will be my first notification to you all that the schedule will change in the off season, or the 5-week hiatus, if you will. We'll do last year's schedule for now, being one show on Tuesday evenings. That seemed to work for everyone, but I intend to be streaming on Twitch as well. But most importantly, for this week, you have Sunday, Monday, and Wednesday night shows as usual. I'll have my Monday morning stream tomorrow, but no Tuesday morning stream. So all statistics provided tonight and every night are from fantasynational.com. It is the best tool out there. It's going to make you a much smarter gambler and a much better DFS player. If you have Fantasy National, you can avoid complete losing weeks like I just had. So go check them out. It's well worth your investment. Then you won't have to listen to a moron like me. In the description to the video, there are links to all of my social media. This is Twitter and Instagram. This is where I put a summary of the research that I find throughout the week, particularly on Twitter, 140 characters and such. But I post the research there. I also post my betting cards to Twitter, as well as any show updates. So give me a follow there. And then if you are interested in the Twitch content, this is a lot of the Showdown content I put out. My Friday night inaugural chill stream, which I will get into here in a second. All of that stuff over on Twitch, if you want to see that, or just be a part of the more in-depth focused research, give me a follow over at Twitch. And then finally, we are live. Chat is open. Want to hear from you all. How was your week? Did you bet Russell Henley? I was pretty high on Russell Henley. Didn't bet him. Did not play nearly enough of him in my lineups. All of that stuff. I want to hear how you all did. How much do you know of Memorial Park? It's only been seen 2 years, so not a lot of a pattern to go on. All of that good stuff. Who are you focusing on early in your research? And before we get into the actual show, I mentioned the Friday night chill stream. That is something that I'm going to be doing every Friday night from now on. I'm gonna call it a Friday night chill stream. It is what it is, and it is completely open to the community. I want to build a a community where people of like-minded, whether it's golf, gambling, or gaming, or whatever, we can just sit and chat. We can play games together. We can do some research together. Whatever it is the community wants to do, I'm open for. Because most of the time I would be on the computer anyway on a Friday night doing whatever, research, gaming, whatever. So I'm just going to make it a regular thing now to be on Friday evenings. Call it a Friday night chill stream. I really hope you consider coming by. I will stream it to both YouTube and Twitch. But again, completely open to the community. Even if I'm not doing something that you are particularly interested in, drop by, say hello, put a suggestion in chat. I am not immune to trying different things of whether it's a new game or talking about a certain subject, whatever. Just a time for us in the calls community to just kind of hang out, have a little fun, relax on a Friday evening after a long work week. So I do hope you consider stopping by on some Friday evenings. But with all of that said, let's do our initial research for the 2023 Houston. And we start with GCSA Tournament Fact Sheet. We are at Memorial Park Golf Course in Houston, Texas for I think it's the Cadence Bake Houston Open. It has been several things in the past, several sponsors. This year, I believe it is Cadence Bake is how you pronounce that, but it's been the Shell Houston Open. It's just been the Houston Open. Been a lot of different things. But as I mentioned, Memorial Park debuted in 2020. So this will be the third year of it. It is a par 70 at 7,412 yards. That is long for a par 70. Very, very long for a par 70. Now the greens are larger than the average tour green by about 1,000 square feet. So very big greens. Not a lot of fairway and a whole lot of rough. 180 acres of rough combined with coupled with 28 acres of fairway. So not very easy to hit the fairways here. There are not a lot of bunkers on this course. 19 to be exact. So only one or a little more than one per hole on average. Not a lot of bunkers. The defense of this golf course really is its length and the amount of rough. There are 4 holes with water in play. It is originally a John Bredemus design in 1936, but Tom Doak recently renovated it in 2019. He took out a whole lot of the bunkers, and that's why it has now been reduced to 19. A lot of that is from Tom Doak. As far as specifics that we're going to be wanting to look at this week, we are on Bermuda greens. Bermuda all the way through the course, to be exact. Fairways, rough, and greens are all Bermuda. Notes-wise, it says they had a very dry summer with no rain for 2 months. So I don't know how that's going to affect the course, because last year's Houston Open was played in a downpour, especially on Thursday morning. The conditions were just horrendous. So complete opposite in terms of weather, at least for now. I have not checked Wind Finder. I don't know if there's rain in the forecast for Houston this week. But last year, Thursday was a downpour. There's the mention of Tom Doak's redesign and the bunkers. But most importantly, we're going to be looking at long course metrics, Bermuda greens, and we will see that there is a particular easy or difficult metric that we'll be wanting to look at. But a few things there about Memorial Park this week. So now we move to Fantasy National, but Tony Finau, who is coming off the miscut at Mayakoba. Honestly, I really should have known better. It was his first event of the fall, probably some rust. But he's back and playing. Taylor Montgomery, Dean Burmester, who had a very good Mayakoba, Emiliano Grillo, Aaron Wise, who made a big move today. Lots of big players playing this week. It's got a Scheffler, Will Gordon, who had a very good tournament. So some decent names. This is not a throwaway field by any means. But before we get too far into it, let's move on over to Fantasy Nationals course breakdown. And the first thing I like to do is take a look and see if we can find the 9th and 10th hole, find out where par is. Because if it's on the 9th or 10th most difficult hole, that means that course will play generally average. Well, the 9th and 10th hole are both over par by a decent little margin here. In fact, you have to get to, even the 13th most difficult hole is over par. You have to get to the 14th hole, or 14th most difficult hole, before you're under par. That tells you that this course is pretty darn difficult. No eagles in sight, even on these par fives, or the two par fives. That yields an eagle at 0.5%. The other par 5 yields an eagle a little less than 0.5%. Not a lot of eagles this week. And conversely, 30% bogeys. That plays to a quarter of a shot over par. That's not even the toughest hole. The toughest hole plays to a third of a shot over par. Almost 0.2, 0.16. Just very, very difficult all the way around the course. Whereas the easiest hole, yes, does play to a quarter of a shot under par, but very quickly you are in the single digits. There's a 10th, there's 0.05. It is not an easy course. It is not played easy. The first 2 years it's been seen, and I have my suspicions it won't play easy this year either. But there is a look at the scorecard for Fantasy National, or for Memorial Park through Fantasy National. Now let's look at some graphs here. Average strokes gained by shot type. You see all putting here for the top 10 players. Do have to hit your irons, but the guys that can really roll it are going to perform well. These greens are massive, so proximity is going to be an important factor as well. Not a lot of people are going to hit the fairways, so fairways could be pretty important, but at least in terms of top 10s, you have got to putt. Top 5s, especially so, you'll see a theme. And then the two winners, all putting. And I want you to note that even though it's saying short game, not around the green. It is not in terms of around the green. It is all in the putting. Putting. So it is important to note that. We'll look at a lot of putting metrics this week. Strokes gained by hole by par. The two par 5s, even though this is only a par 70, the two par 5s are still just dominating the par 3s and par 4s in terms of top 10s. You go to the top 5s, the par 3s start to catch up a little bit, but par 5s are still dominant. And in the winners, par 4s don't matter a whole lot at all. Par 3s really do move, but it's all par 5s. There is some focus on par 3s too. Don't overlook that either. But par 5s and putting. All right, we move down to the hole composition. There are 5 par 3s here at Memorial Park. Hey James, how's it going? Hope your week went a whole lot better than mine. How did the Showdown go? I am curious to hear about that. But while you are typing that, Thanks for jumping in chat like you always do. Hope the weekend went well. But at Memorial Park, there are 5 par 3s. 2 very short, 1 medium-ish length, 175 to 200, 1 200 to 225, and then 1 very long, 225 plus. You do have 1 short par 4 from 350 to 400, but a lot of the length in this course comes in the par 4s. You got 3 from 400 to 450, 3 from 450 to 5, 3 par 4s at 500 plus. Long course. And then the par 5s, 2 measure 550 to 600, 1 measure 600 to 650. Approach shot distribution, no surprise, we saw the bevy of long par 4s and par 5s, 200 plus approaches. 200 plus approaches, just like the Arnold Palmer. Let's see, where else were we earlier in the fall? Was it the Sanderson Farms, I believe, that has a lot of 200 plus approaches? It is very important here at Memorial Park. So we're going to be taking a long look at 200 plus approaches as well. Speaking to the difficulty of Memorial Park, the inaugural year was a +4 cut. That's very difficult. Last year it moved to +2, which is technically average, but it is certainly on the difficult end of average. So you can see just the difficulty there. Very few courses have more bogeys than birdies. Memorial Park is one of those courses, and you can see the graph for the doubles, and eagles are absolutely non-existent. So putting the eagles and the birdies on top of each other, bogeys and doubles, you can see it's just over par is more common here. Pars are good scores here at Memorial Park. Driving accuracy, we spoke about this in the GCSA tournament fact sheet. Very narrow fairways, hard to hit. Driving accuracy, very low here. Green regulation percentage, also lower than the tour average. Again, due to the length that contributes to the difficulty of the course. And players are not as successful scrambling here than at the average tour event. So perhaps some scrambling will be looked at this week as well. Now, 3 putts aren't all that common. So once you are on the green, you're generally able to 2-putt. Generally. Distance a whole lot further here than the average tour event by about 8 yards, which is quite a bit. And it's needed here. Again, a par 70 that's measuring over 7,400 yards. It's very long. Going to play very long. Proximity, roughly the same as the average tour event, about 1/10 of a foot further away than the average tour event. So, but here's a big key here at Houston as well. Notice the length of birdie putts. You have very few from 0 to 5 feet. You've got 10 to 15 as the probably the biggest in terms of separation from here to the average tour event. Then 15 to 20, 20 to 25. Just you're gonna have to be able to putt from distance, and you're gonna be able. You have to make those putts to have a chance at winning here, as we saw in the strokes gained by shot type. It is all putting here. So there is a look at Memorial Park. We'll move to the strokes gained page view. And again, first thing I like to do, let's take a look at some Bermuda putting. We are going to extend this out to, let's just go all the way back to January 1st. Get all of the Bermuda rounds that we can. Yeah, several players have 36. I wonder if anyone has in the uppers of 50. Yeah, okay, that'll work. Gonna cheat real quick. Let's see, green speeds. Again, fast and average, not a consistent speed. So I'm just gonna look at Bermuda for now. So your top performers on Bermuda greens, no speed, just straight out Bermuda, no matter what speed. since the start of 2022. Those players are Sam Burns, Brendan Todd, Doc Redmond, Bo Hostler, Sepp Straka, Alex Noren, Richie Wierenski, Taylor Montgomery, Denny McCarthy, Andrew Putnam, and Maverick McNeely. So there's a look at your top, this is 11 due to ties, putters on Bermuda. This is going to be a massive factor this week. So early on in your research, pay close attention to these players here, as they are generally, or at least the best in the moment, putters on Bermuda. Let's see, other things that we might want to look at here in terms of a strokes gained page view. Again, strokes gained approach. But actually, before that, let's take a look at long course performance. Long course performance. And we have 19 rounds. It's not a lot, but we're gonna have to make do. So when a course is long, defined as over 7,400 yards by Fantasy National, your top performers in 2022 have been Scotty Scheffler, Chad Ramey, Nate Lashley, Ryan Brehm, Matthias Schwab, Bo Hostler, Gary Woodland, Michael Kim, Brandon Wu, and Russell Henley. Okay, so you've got a little bit of overlap here. Bo Hostler was on the putting and now on long courses. He looks to be the only one that is in both. Chad Ramey makes sense. His win came at Corrales, which is a long course. Scotty Scheffler, the 2022 year he had was fantastic. This tournament was certainly better before the schedule change. You are correct, and you are somewhat familiar with it, I'm sure, being in the Midwest. I won't put it out there, or Dockshire or whatever, but being somewhat native to the area, you would be pretty familiar with it, I'm sure. This used to be in April, I believe. It might have been, was it the week before the Masters? It was around the Masters, because the Houston Open used to be a pretty big deal, the Shell Houston Open. 1 week, yeah, exactly. It was one of the bigger tournaments early on in the PGA Tour season before the schedule changed. It is what it is. Might get back to its good days with the change to the full year PGA Tour season. Interested to see how that works. But anyway, there is a look at your top 10 performers when a course has been long. Chad Ramey, again, his win at Corrales. Gary Woodland has always been a better player when a course is long. Brandon Wu at Vedanta, at Puerto Rico, at Corrales, he's generally played long courses well. Hideki, yeah. And then the other thing that I want to look at here is difficult, because this course is difficult. So, I don't know why it's highlighting, that's weird. Since the beginning of 2022, your top performers when a round is difficult have been Scotty Scheffler, Aaron Wise, Sam Burns, Adam Hadwin, Tony Finau, Wyndham Clark, Brendan Steele, Adam Schenk, Adam Long, and Hideki. So a lot more overlap here with the putting. Now Scotty Scheffler, long and difficult. Sam Burns, number 1 putter on Bermuda, and now difficult. We have Hideki was there for long and now difficult. Brendan Todd was putting and now just missed the top 10 when it's difficult. Denny McCarthy, the same for putting and difficult. So there's some names for you to focus early on this week in your research. Now I'll come back to the strokes gained approach, take a look and see who has been the best in that regard since July 1st, just who's hitting their irons the best. Those players have been Trey Mullinax, Jason Day, Lee Hodges, Russell Henley, Mark Hubbard, Ben Griffin, Tony Finau, Callum Tarrant, Adam Schenk, and Chesson Hadley. So that's going to do it for the strokes gained page view. Again, not a whole lot I want to get into just because we have a lot to look at in terms of the data dive tomorrow. But we know there are a few things that we are going to need to focus on. So let's take a look at the previous course conditions, the 2 years here at Memorial Park. So we're only going to be looking at 2021 and 2022. This changed venues, as I mentioned 2 years ago. So the first year, 3 of the 4 rounds were difficult. Last year, 3 of the 4 rounds were difficult. And the only reason this one didn't play difficult is that the course was so saturated from the rain that guys could just more or less take dead aim at pins if they could reach them. The course was so soft that the greens were very receptive, as you can see from all the rain here. But hitting fairways was still very difficult. Now the rough was short. They were anticipating that rain, so they did shorten the rough that last year to help. I imagine it'll be more so in the average. And that also could have contributed to the green speeds being average, all the rain that they got. So it might be fast Bermuda, but we're going to just go with Bermuda putting this week. And if it does indeed play fast, then that'll be a lean that I missed. So if you want to lean one way or the other, I would lean towards the fast. But this week, am just going to look at just Bermuda because we don't have a pattern yet. But there's a look at the historic conditions here at Memorial Park. Couple things we can look at. We talked about 200 plus proximity. So a very, very, very important part of Memorial Park is your propensity and your ability to hit 200 plus approaches. So since July 1st, your top performers at approach shots coming from 200 plus yards have been Joel Damon, Matthias Schmidt, Austin Eckert, Michael Gligic, Davis Riley, Justin Suh, Dean Burmester, Ben Griffin, Tyler Duncan, and Alex Smalley. So, good stuff there. There's another list of players that you might want to have a particularly close eye on early on in your research this week, given the fact that 200 plus approaches are so very common and so very important here. The only other thing that I want to look at tonight would be par 5s. There are 3 par 5s, which now, speaking to that, it makes a whole lot more sense why these are so much higher than the par 3s. When I initially thought it was just 4 par 3s and 2 par 5s, this would have been very, very... It didn't make a lot of sense, but now that I know that there are 5 par 3s, or remembered there are 5 par 3s and 3 par 5s, this graph makes a whole lot more sense. So yes, the par 5s, you must play well. So your top par 5 performers, again with no filters, just pure par 5 performance since July 1st. Stephan Jaeger, Cam Champ, Patrick Rogers, Dean Burmester, Aaron Wise, Kyle Westmoreland, Davis Thompson, Adam Hadwin, Justin Lauer, and Matt Wallace. So there you go. There's a few names to focus on early in your research this week. A lot of emphasis on putting, a lot of emphasis on 200 plus proximity, par 5s. But now, let's move to Microsoft Excel. And I am not going to show you the tournament history tab, this one, because 2020, 18, and 17 were at a different golf course. So I don't want to try to break everything out here. But we can get just a quick casual look like Sam Burns here. He's tied 7th. He's dropped because he missed the cut. But this year was at the Golf Club of Houston, so Whereas somebody like Stuart Sink missed the cut, but he tied for 9th at the Golf Club of Houston. I just don't want to have to deal with all that. So let's move on over to Microsoft Excel, and I will show you who's played well here. In one event, okay, so again, there's only been 2 years, so players with one event are going to be given a fair share of weight. I'm not going to remove them a lot this week when filtering for these particular statistics. So of the guys that have played or have the best average finish, you just look at even Hideki, look at the strokes gained putting, and Hideki is not a good putter. He was on fire the year he played. But if we look at all of the players that have averaged a top 30, your average strokes gained putting was a 1.7. It's very high. Whereas the approach, 2.4. Again, ball striking, iron play is still going to be important. But around the green, 1.2. Off the tee, 1.4. So putting and approach, per usual. It is a little surprising to see that approach is a little higher than putting, at least in terms of here, of the guys that have averaged a top 30. Now, granted, Aaron Rai here, pretty darn poor, a -2, and he hit his irons very well that week. So it might, cause for an outlier. Let's see. Guys who have played it twice. Sam Burns, approach mainly, but they've still been positive in putting. Adam Long, approach, better at the putting. Scotty Scheffler, look at this. No iron play from Scotty Scheffler. He's been good at everywhere else. Mackenzie Hughes, doing Mackenzie Hughes things, short game preferred. Russell Henley, doing Russell Henley things, iron play. Aaron Wise, a little of everything. So there's a look at that. We scroll across. Let's see. I was going to scroll across. Apparently, we're scrolling down too. Distance. For the guys that have been up at the very top, not terribly important. Not terribly important. Fairways, okay. We'll have to take a big, long look into this tomorrow to see what facet in this page view seems to be the driving force, whether it's fairways, greens, distance maybe. Do want to look at some scrambling tomorrow. That'll be good to do. Let's take a quick look at some par 5s, par 3s as well. Like Hideki did not play the par 3s very well at all. But the rest of these players that have been up here in the top of the leaderboard have. Sam Burns essentially field average, but other than Hideki, maybe Aaron Rai, the rest of these have played the par 3s very, very well. Par 4s, they said they were mitigated in importance, but you still got to play them. They're still important. Hideki took advantage of them by far. Par 5s, Hideki took advantage of those as well. And then proximity, okay. I'm quite surprised that the 200 pluses are negatives as much as they are. But let's take a look at, let's get a feel for the course. So Houston, we saw a little bit of this In terms of Fantasy National, off the tee, a little bit surprising, but 10% less important. Strokes gained approach, 2% more important. Now this one seems to be pretty suspect. This is saying that 30% more important strokes gained around the green. Yeah, looky there. You had a massive number the first year. A massive number. Let's think of some other short game courses, like the Fortinet, 1.38. Pretty high. Houston is definitely not that. The Shriners, 1.1. Yeah, that's a pretty big, massive outlier there, I would think. So that number is going to be deceiving. Putting, very, very important. Again, these are all compared to the rest of the full field courses on the PGA Tour. Distance, very important for the players that finish in the top 30. Fairways, good drives, and greens all above. I don't pay much attention to driver left and right avoid. So greens, good drives, fairways. You don't want to look at sand saves because there's only 19 bunkers on the course, one per hole essentially. Again, no surprise. Eagles, they just don't happen here. So we're not even going to take a look. Bogeys avoided. This would have been my assumption. Bogeys avoided. Pars are going to be very good scores here this week at Memorial Park. So who can avoid bogeys? We definitely want to look at that. Yeah, look at this. Par 3s. 27.5% more important than the average full field course. That's going to be ignored. That is an outlier for sure because not every course has a 0 to 150. 150 to 175 looks to be important. Looks to be the most important. Could make sense there. 2 of the 5 par 3s do measure here. So it'll be interesting to go through the prior leaderboards tomorrow night and see if the best players that week took advantage of these 2 par 3s the most. That's what it looks like it's saying, but we'll see tomorrow. But strokes gained total par 3s are going to be very important. There's 5 of them here. You're going to have to play well in the par 3s. Par 4s, again, speaking to the graph that we saw in Fantasy National, not important. 15% less important than the average full field course. Just, it's not important here. Now the long par 4s maybe, because there are 3 in each of these 3 ranges. There are 3 par 4s that measure in each of these 3 ranges. So it does make some sense that these lengths are important. Absolutely. That could make some sense. Par 5s, 3% more important. I think that number is a bit low. It's probably going to be a little bit higher once we look into the prior leaderboards tomorrow night. 2 of the par 3s measure, or 2 of the par 5s measure here. 1 measures here. So again, the majority of the par 5s measure to here. You see a big number there. Total procs. And looky here, the wedge proximities are very important. Okay, so let's think about that. If indeed these wedge proximities are the most important, then that is signifying that the par 5s are not attackable. Okay. If they are not attackable par 5s, meaning they are true 3-shot par 5s, then yes, those lengths of approaches would get elevated in importance. Surprisingly, it's saying the 200 plus is less important. That's something we'll have to scrutinize a whole lot tomorrow. I don't know if I believe that. But we did see this in terms of graphics or graphical evidence in Fantasy National. 10 to 15 and 15 to 20 distance putting. More important. Now the 175 to 200 proximity is more important. A lot more important. 150 to 175. Total procs. I am curious on this. So here's the actual detailed numbers that I keep. And we will see what's going on here. Yeah, that number is not all that big. Interesting to see. Now that number is huge, 121.6. That's a big total procs number. Let's just get a feel for some of these other courses and their numbers, especially at the 200 plus. That's the one that's throwing me for a loop here. 200 plus, like Sanderson Farms. That's what I thought. So that was a 31. Houston says it's a 16. RSM's a 17. Like the Arnold Palmer, the tournament most known for 200 plus approaches, it's at a 36. Shoot, the Byron Nelson's at a 41. So that'll be very interesting to see tomorrow in the Data Dive show why this is getting so deflated in terms of the importance when the majority of the approach shots here at Memorial Park come from 200 plus. It'll be interesting to see. But that is going to do it for the initial research show tonight. I'll leave you off on this spreadsheet here. Again, this is just the strokes gained total or the tournament history tab in Fantasy National, broken out by their particular metrics, how the guys have performed specifically in each stat, the number of years they've played it, the average finish, how many times they missed the cut, etc., sorted on best finish. So, again, a reminder for this week. Tonight's show, the initial research, Monday and Wednesday will happen as usual, Data Dive and DFS Tactics. I will be online streaming tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Eastern for Twitch. No stream Tuesday morning. I will be playing some golf, hitting the tiny white ball and going to chase it. So no stream Tuesday morning. And then a reminder that I will be doing my Friday night chill streams every single Friday night moving forward. James was there for majority of it. Had a couple of other people stop by, so I really hope you consider doing the same. I want to build that. It's very relaxed. Music's going. Even if you're not a gamer, it's not all gaming content. We did Showdown content there. We gamed. We talked about a bunch of different stuff. It's just a way for me to continue to interact with the community. So really wanting to build that up, have a good time. Even if you can't stay for a lot of it, just come by and say hello, that you dropped by just to do that. That would make the stream worth it for me. So, but again, hopefully you did a whole lot better than I did for the Mayakoba. Reach out to me if you had success. Again, congratulations, Dave, on your top 10 hit on Joel Damon. And we will look forward to moving forward, putting this week behind me. We're back on U.S. soil. I have all the data at my disposal. Let's get back on the winning track. So for all of the wagers that you made this past week at the Mayakoba, for all of the DFS contests you entered this past week at the Mayakoba, until I see you tomorrow night for the Data Dive show, may all your bets be profitable.